what would take them days, if not weeks, to accomplish can now be done in essentially minutes.
We're here today to talk about our new SPARK Transcriber solution that Sparkhound has put together. And this came up, I know, because of some needs that some of your customers were having. So tell us a little bit about how we got here. What led to a need for the SPARK Transcriber?
Yeah, sure. There's a lot of public sector agencies out there that do things like interviews. They record hearings and so forth. And part of the process of that, after the interview is done or after the hearing is completed, is they have to send that off to get that audio or video file transcribed into a format that they can then use it in documentation for whether it's discovery or evidence or so forth. And that process can take a while. It's an hour-long process to do the recording, and then it may take 2 or 3 hours to actually transcribe that recording and get it back from the transcription service. It's a very cumbersome and tedious process to do.
Yeah. So tell us, what is the SPARK Transcriber? What do we put together?
So there are a lot of transcription services available through Azure these days, where you can simply upload a file. It will read that file. It'll basically listen to it, and it'll transcribe it out into a document. Then you can publish it out to Word or a PDF file. You can do diarization with it, so it can tell you, if there's multiple speakers in there, you can assign how many speakers are in the room, put the names to the speakers. It'll give you a confidence level of how well it thinks that the speaking part is being properly transcribed by the solution. So it could be like 87% confidence level, 27% confidence level. So it gives you an idea of how well it's doing the translation, and then gives you the option to go in there and say, okay, if this didn't quite read right, let me go back and listen to it. And then now I have the ability to edit just that one section and clarify, what the terminology is that they were using at that time.
So it sounds like a lot of stuff here, but I know that we're getting this set up rather quickly, right? This is not that lengthy of a project at all.
Right. The first iteration we did of this took us a couple of days to get everything in place. The tools, the transcription tools and services are already in Azure. You just have to have the licenses and basically turn it on.
Yeah.
And it's a very cheap service to use. All you really need to do is enable those services. We put a front end on the solution, so you weren't working kind of in the back end tools. We made a nice, pretty little interface for it, where you can log in, you can see the upload, you can see the screen that shows you everything you've transcribed. You can put a name to it if you want to add more metadata, like the date, who the parties are in the conversation, and so forth. You can add as many metadata fields as you want to try and keep track of things.
Yep.
And now that it's been created, it literally takes us about an hour or so, hour and a half, to get it installed into the client's environment. And that really just depends on, do they have the Azure environment already stood up? Do they have the M365 environment? And then, what do we have to do? Do we want to link it in with their Azure Active Directory for authentication? Do they just want to use kind of the forms-based authentication that we built into the system? And then where do they want to store the files? Do they want to just download them locally and put them somewhere where they're keeping them? Or do they want to integrate it with something like their SharePoint environment, so they've got this library of transcripts that's now searchable and readable, by the intranet solution there. So a couple of different options which determine the length of time it takes to actually implement the solution once they've decided they like it.
Yeah, so easy to use, which is important because you've got non-technical people typically using these sort of things, and easy to find this stuff at the end, right? Easy to sort it. So tell us then, with the organizations we've done this for, what sort of impact has it had so far?
Well, we've got one that, it was taking them, by the time they would record this file, an hour-long interview, maybe with a suspect. By the time they actually got the transcription done, it would take them a couple of weeks to go from interview to actual transcription. It takes time for these people to do that. Now, that 1 hour interview, they upload into the solution. A 1 hour audio file takes, 5 to 10 minutes to process. And then they can see the output right there on the screen, and they can export it out to the Word document and do any kind of editing that they want. So it saved them a tremendous amount of time. And in some cases, they're using a transcriber service, like a court reporting service, to do this for them. So the amount of money they were spending on that court reporting service is now being saved, almost 100%, because the solution only costs pennies to transcribe
Not to mention the backlog, I'm sure, of things that they have to get through to be able to breeze through that rather quickly.
Right. Yeah, they could take 10 interviews and you can process them all at the same time if you like. You upload, it starts processing. So it's not like you have to just wait for one to finish before you start the next one. You want to upload 10 and have 10 be done at the same time? No
Hmm.
problem. What would take them days, if not weeks to accomplish, can now be done in essentially minutes.
Yeah, for sure. And this is definitely a scenario when organizations are asking themselves and asking us, how do I get started with AI? What's kind of a practical way to do that? Like point in case, right? This is leveraging Azure Cognitive Services, the open AI platform, to do just that in a very non-technical manner. It's plug and play, and you're instantly seeing ROI and some of the time saved. Very cool. Well, exciting stuff. Thank you, Dave, for your time today.